By the early 1940s, World War II had escalated to a scale that demanded an evolution in military aviation. In the Pacific theater, where vast stretches of ocean separated islands and airfields, long-range fighters became a necessity. The United States was fighting a war on two fronts, and the Pacific, with its immense distances, required a fighter capable of reaching enemy positions without the luxury of frequent refueling. American forces needed aircraft that could engage Japanese bombers, provide effective escort for bombers, and conduct offensive strikes far beyond the front lines. By the time the United States entered the war in December 1941, the military was already facing a shortage of long-range fighters. The Japanese had taken control of significant territories across the Pacific, and their air superiority in the early stages of the conflict presented a daunting challenge. The standard American fighters of the time, such as the P-40 Warhawk, while effective in close engagements, lacked the range and the firepower needed for deep strikes or escort missions over long distances. This gap in capabilities was apparent during the Battle of Midway in June of 1942. Although the United States emerged victorious, the battle exposed the limitations of existing fighters. The need for a long-range, high-performance fighter was urgent. In response to this need, the U.S. Army Air Forces, USAAF, approached various aircraft manufacturers for a new long-range fighter. The challenge was immense. The military required a plane that could not only reach the target, but could also engage in dogfights, protect bombers, and provide offensive capability deep into enemy territory. Lockheed, a company previously known for its expertise in building cutting-edge aircraft, was tasked with this challenge. At the helm of this ambitious project was Clarence Kelly Johnson, an innovative and visionary engineer. Johnson was tasked with designing an aircraft that could combine speed, firepower, and range, all while meeting the stringent requirements of the U.S. Army. Johnson's concept for the P-38 Lightning was unlike anything seen before. His design featured twin booms, which separated the engines from the fuselage, a design that would later become one of the most distinctive and iconic aspects of the P-38. The engines were housed in the booms, connected to the aircraft by a central fuselage that held the cockpit and armament. The twin-boom design not only increased stability, but also allowed for a greater engine power-to-weight ratio, which contributed to the aircraft's long-range capability. Moreover, Johnson's vision was to create a fighter with a powerful armament and a turbocharged engine, giving it a significant performance edge at high altitudes, a critical factor in the Pacific theater. The P-38 was intended to be a multi-role fighter capable of taking on enemy fighters, bombers, and even engaging in reconnaissance missions. When the first prototypes of the P-38 were revealed in the early months of 1941, the reaction from both military officials and the public was mixed. The twin-boom design, while technically sound, was unconventional. Many viewed it with skepticism, especially given its odd appearance compared to the sleek, traditional designs of fighters like the Spitfire or the Messerschmitt Bf 109. The large central fuselage and twin-boom tail arrangement made the aircraft appear clumsy and over-engineered. Some skeptics even questioned whether the design would work in practice, fearing that the aircraft's weight and unusual configuration would make it difficult to handle in combat. Despite these reservations, the U.S. Army Air Forces recognized the need for a revolutionary new aircraft to meet the challenges of the Pacific theater. Lockheed's engineering team, led by Kelly Johnson, was determined to prove the P-38's worth. The engineers worked tirelessly to address potential concerns about the plane's stability, handling, and aerodynamics. What seemed like an unorthodox design would soon prove to be a masterstroke of engineering. As the P-38 moved from prototype to production, Lockheed faced a series of technical hurdles. One of the major challenges was the aircraft's turbocharged engines. These engines, designed to maintain performance at high altitudes, were a novel solution at the time, but they presented unique production and maintenance challenges. The complexity of the engine system required specialized knowledge and technology, and the production of the P-38's turbocharged engines was initially slow and prone to technical issues. Another issue was the aircraft's heavy weight and the stress it placed on the airframe. The P-38's design was intended to give it superior firepower and range, but this meant that the plane was heavier than many of its contemporaries. To compensate, the Lockheed team made adjustments to the wing and structure and fuselage, ensuring that the P-38 could maintain maneuverability despite its bulk. Additionally, the P-38 required modifications to improve its high-altitude performance. Early tests revealed that the plane's engines were not producing the desired level of power at extreme altitudes, so further adjustments were made to ensure that it could operate effectively in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, where combat was often fought in the Pacific. Through perseverance and the commitment of Lockheed's engineers, these challenges were overcome. By the time the P-38 was ready for combat, the aircraft had been refined into a formidable machine. The development process, while lengthy and fraught with setbacks, ultimately gave birth to a fighter that would change the course of the war. By the end of 1941, the P-38 was ready for its first operational flight. The aircraft was initially deployed to the Pacific, where it immediately demonstrated its capabilities. The P-38's long-range capability allowed it to perform a variety of roles, from bomber escort to reconnaissance, deep strikes against Japanese positions, and even aerial combat against enemy fighters. The P-38's first major combat success came in early 1942 during the Battle of the Coral Sea, where it provided essential air support for American forces. Its performance in combat, though still evolving, began to show the aircraft's potential. American pilots who flew the P-38 reported its remarkable stability, high speed, and the devastating power of its armament too, 50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns, and a powerful 20mm Hispano cannon. Though the P-38's early deployment faced challenges, including a steep learning curve for pilots, it quickly proved its worth. By the middle of 1942, the P-38 had firmly established itself as the primary long-range fighter for the United States in the Pacific theater. Its iconic twin-boom design began to grow in respect, and its role as a key component in the Allied victory was cemented. The P-38 Lightning, initially dismissed by many as an oddity in aviation design, had proven itself to be one of the most versatile and effective aircraft of World War II. From the early design challenges to the final successful deployment, its birth marked the beginning of a new era in fighter aircraft development. The combination of long-range capability, speed, firepower, and high-altitude performance made it a critical asset for the United States, ensuring its place as one of the most iconic and successful planes of the war. In the chapters to come, we will explore how this disposable plane evolved into a weapon that helped shift the tide of the Pacific War, and how its legacy continues to influence modern aviation. By the summer of 1942, the P-38 Lightning was ready to face its first true test in the Pacific theater. The Battle of Midway, which took place in June of that year, would become a pivotal moment not just for the United States Navy and its aircraft, but for the P-38 as well. The P-38's long-range capabilities were fully put to the test, as it was tasked with long patrols, escorting bombers, and engaging enemy aircraft. Midway, a small atoll in the Pacific, was of strategic importance to both the American and Japanese forces. It stood as the last major obstacle preventing the Japanese from advancing further into the Pacific and threatening the U.S. mainland. The battle was a turning point in the war, and American forces, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, managed to secure a decisive victory. The P-38's role during the battle was crucial. It was used in various capacities, from providing fighter escorts for dive bombers to engaging Japanese fighters in aerial combat. The Lightning's speed and firepower allowed it to take on the Japanese Zeros, which were widely regarded as the best fighter aircraft at the time. While the P-38 did not dominate the skies, in the way that it would later, it performed admirably in its role, showing its potential as an effective weapon in the war. One of the P-38's notable successes during Midway came from the efforts of Lieutenant Colonel Richard I. Bong, a future ace and one of the United States' most successful P-38 pilots. Bong was involved in a series of dogfights during the battle, where his P-38's firepower proved decisive in downing several enemy aircraft. This success was not isolated. Other pilots flying the P-38 also reported the effectiveness of the aircraft's powerful armament, which helped bring down enemy bombers and fighters with devastating precision. Despite early technical challenges and mixed reports from some pilots, the P-38's performance at Midway laid the groundwork for its growing reputation as a formidable fighter. The aircraft's ability to fly long distances and perform in various combat scenarios, coupled with its twin-engine reliability and heavy firepower, made it an invaluable asset to the U.S. forces. After its initial successes, the P-38 began to be deployed more widely across the Pacific, particularly in the South Pacific region. The aircraft's range allowed it to operate from remote airstrips, and its ability to escort bombers deep into enemy territory made it indispensable for the Allied forces. One of the most significant contributions of the P-38 came during the campaign in New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. These regions were critical for both the Allies and the Japanese, as control of these islands provided a strategic advantage in terms of supply lines, airfields, and naval routes. The P-38 played a central role in establishing air superiority over these islands, where it was used for long-range bomber escorts, precision strikes, and even ground attacks. The Lightning's ability to operate at high altitudes also gave it a significant edge over the Japanese, who lacked the advanced turbocharged engines and high-altitude performance of the P-38. This advantage was particularly evident in battles such as the Battle of the Bismarck Sea, where P-38 seconds provided cover for Allied bombers targeting Japanese shipping. The long-range strike capability of the P-38 made it possible for American forces to attack deep into Japanese-held territories without the need for constant refueling or rearming. During these campaigns, P-38 pilots earned a reputation for their combat skills and the aircraft's durability. The Lightning's twin-engine design meant that even if one engine was damaged, the aircraft could still make it back to base. This reliability proved crucial in the harsh conditions of the Pacific, where many pilots flew in extreme heat and humidity, and where enemy air defenses were often strong. As the war progressed, the P-38 underwent several improvements that made it even more effective in combat. Initially, the aircraft had been plagued by issues related to its heavy weight and tendency to overheat in high-performance situations. However, Lockheed's engineers continually refined the aircraft, improving its turbochargers, engine systems, and overall design. By 1943, the P-38 was undergoing significant upgrades, including modifications to the tail and wing structure. These changes helped to improve the aircraft's stability and maneuverability, addressing some of the early complaints from pilots. The improvements to the P-38's range, firepower, and handling made it even more effective against the Japanese, and it continued to gain a reputation as one of the most reliable and deadly fighters in the Pacific theater. The versatility of the P-38 also became apparent during its use in the European theater, particularly in the Mediterranean and Italian campaigns. The aircraft was adapted for use as a long-range escort fighter, capable of protecting bombers as they flew deep into enemy territory. The P-38's firepower and heavy armor made it particularly effective against the Luftwaffe, and it was credited with helping the Allies achieve air superiority in Europe. As the war in the Pacific continued, the P-38 would become an iconic symbol of American air superiority. The aircraft's ability to take on enemy fighters and bombers, combined with its long range and heavy armament, made it a favorite among American pilots. It was during these years that the P-38 truly earned its reputation as a lethal weapon, with many pilots scoring multiple kills and becoming aces. Among the most famous P-38 pilots was Richard I. Bong, who would become the United States' highest-scoring ace of World War II. Bong's success in the P-38, with more than 40 kills to his name, showcased the aircraft's potential as a formidable combat machine. His exploits would be echoed by other pilots flying the P-38, whose skills and bravery would turn the aircraft into one of the most celebrated fighters of the war. As the P-38 continued to gain success in combat, its role in both the Pacific and European theaters became increasingly important. The aircraft was not only a symbol of American engineering ingenuity, but also of the resilience and adaptability of the pilots who flew it. The P-38 would go on to become one of the most effective and celebrated aircraft of World War II, marking a significant chapter in the history of military aviation. By the end of World War II, the P-38 Lightning had established itself as a symbol of American ingenuity, strength, and endurance. Its role in both the Pacific and European theaters was critical to the success of the Allied forces. From its early skepticism and technical difficulties to its eventual status as a game-changing aircraft, the P-38 had proven itself as one of the most important fighters of the war. It remains an enduring symbol of the effectiveness of long-range fighters and a testament to the vision of Clarence Kelly, Johnson, and the Lockheed engineering team. In the years that followed, the P-38 continued to be remembered by veterans and aviation enthusiasts alike as a pivotal aircraft in the Allied victory. Its legacy as one of the most effective and versatile fighters in the history of military aviation continues to inspire admiration and respect to this day. By the spring of 1943, the P-38 Lightning had proven itself as one of the most formidable fighters in the Pacific. Its combination of firepower, speed, and long-range capability made it the perfect weapon for a mission that would turn the tide of the war in the Pacific, the assassination of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yamamoto's role in the war was undeniable. As the architect of Japan's naval strategy, including the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, he had become one of the most significant figures in the conflict. His leadership helped orchestrate Japan's early successes in the Pacific, but his influence also made him a prime target for the Allies. His death was seen as a way to severely cripple Japanese morale and disrupt their war effort. The U.S. Army Air Forces, in coordination with naval intelligence, initiated Operation Vengeance in April of 1943 to eliminate Yamamoto. The operation's success would hinge on the ability of American pilots to track Yamamoto's movements, intercept his flight, and eliminate him before he could return to Japan. The first step in Operation Vengeance was gathering intelligence. The Japanese had a habit of communicating with their military officers over encrypted radio signals, and American cryptographers had been working tirelessly to decode these transmissions. Through painstaking efforts, the U.S. Navy managed to intercept a Japanese message indicating that Yamamoto would be traveling to the Solomon Islands to inspect his forces. The intelligence was quickly passed to the U.S. Army Air Forces, and the 339th Fighter Squadron, a unit that was already well acquainted with the P-38 Lightning. The mission was clear: intercept Yamamoto's aircraft, which was believed to be a specially modified Mitsubishi G4M bomber, codenamed Betty, and eliminate him. The operation was meticulously planned, with U.S. forces ensuring that every detail was accounted for, from tracking Yamamoto's flight route to positioning the P-38 seconds for the attack. For the mission, 12 P-38 Lightnings from the 339th Fighter Squadron, led by Major John W. Johnny Landers, would depart from Guadalcanal and fly a round trip of more than 400 miles over enemy-held territory. The plan required extreme precision and a high degree of coordination between various elements of the operation, including the intelligence teams, the ground crews, and the pilots who would carry out the attack. On April 18, 1943, the plan was put into motion. The pilots of the 339th Fighter Squadron, fully aware of the gravity of the mission, prepared their P-38 seconds for what would be a historic attack. Each Lightning was armed with a powerful arsenal of 50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns and a pair of 500-pound bombs, enough to take out a heavy bomber and its target in one devastating strike. The squadron took off from Henderson Field on Guadalcanal at dawn. The mission required flying over vast stretches of ocean and enemy-held islands, and the P-38 pilots would need to rely on their aircraft's long-range capabilities and their skills as navigators. As they flew into the early morning light, they were aware that their success hinged not only on intercepting Yamamoto's plane, but also on getting in and out without encountering enemy fighters or anti-aircraft fire. As the P-38 seconds neared the point where Yamamoto's aircraft was expected to be, the pilots stayed on high alert. Their mission was to ambush Yamamoto's aircraft as it flew along a well-known route, but the stakes were high. The Japanese bomber was protected by a number of Zero fighters, making the task even more perilous. At approximately 0900 hours, the American pilots spotted Yamamoto's Betty bomber, along with its fighter escorts. The timing was perfect. The bombers were flying at a relatively low altitude, making them an easy target for the experienced P-38 pilots. Major Landers, leading the squadron, ordered his men to drop to an intercept course, descending to 10,000 feet to get into position. As the P-38 seconds closed in, the moment of truth arrived. In a dramatic split-second attack, the P-38 pilots swooped in, their weapons blazing. The sound of machine guns firing filled the air as the lightnings tore into Yamamoto's bomber. The Japanese fighters attempted to break up the attack, but they were too late. The P-38 seconds unleashed a hail of gunfire, targeting the Betty bomber's engines and cockpit. Yamamoto's aircraft was hit hard. Fuel tanks exploded, and the bomber began to break apart mid-flight. The pilots of the 339th Fighter Squadron knew they had struck their target, but they did not know immediately whether Yamamoto had been killed. They continued their attack, ensuring the destruction of the bomber. The entire engagement lasted mere minutes, but would go down in history as one of the most daring and effective airstrikes of the war. Yamamoto's plane crashed into the jungle, its wreckage strewn across the remote island of Bougainville. Major Landers and his squadron returned to base, but the full impact of their actions was not immediately clear. The Japanese would not learn of Yamamoto's death until hours later. His absence was felt across Japan, and the effects were immediate. For the Allies, Yamamoto's death was a major psychological victory. His leadership and vision had made him one of Japan's most important war figures, and his death sent shockwaves through the Japanese command. The loss of Yamamoto dealt a significant blow to Japanese morale, and it was a moment that would shift the strategic balance in the Pacific. Though the mission was hailed as a success, there were consequences. The Japanese military immediately began to adapt and increase the security of their leaders. Additionally, it became clear that the US would have to maintain its advantage in intelligence and technology to continue striking at the heart of the Japanese war effort. In recognition of the bravery and precision of the pilots who carried out Operation Vengeance, each of the 12 P-38 pilots involved received high praise. Major Landers, although not officially credited with the kill, would later be remembered for his leadership and the courage of his squadron. The successful assassination of Yamamoto became a symbol of the changing tide in the Pacific War. It highlighted the technological superiority and long-range capabilities of the P-38 Lightning, which had proven to be not just a versatile fighter, but a weapon of choice for the Allies in their quest for victory. The success of Operation Vengeance confirmed the strategic importance of the P-38 Lightning and cemented its place in the history of World War II. More than just a symbol of technological achievement, the Lightning was a testament to the power of precise, intelligence-driven military operations. The death of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, once considered an impossible target, demonstrated the Allies' growing ability to strike at the heart of the Japanese war machine. For the pilots of the 339th Fighter Squadron, the mission would be remembered as the culmination of their dedication and skill. It was an event that would go down in history, not only for the dramatic success of the attack, but also for its significance in the broader context of the Pacific War. The P-38 Lightning, the disposable plane that had defied expectations, had now proven itself capable of altering the course of history. Following the success of Operation Vengeance, the P-38 Lightning earned its reputation as one of the most versatile and lethal aircraft of World War II. Its design, initially criticized for its twin-boom configuration and unconventional appearance, had proven to be a masterstroke of engineering, combining speed, firepower, and long-range capability in ways that few other fighters could match. In the Pacific theater, the P-38 became a vital asset in the ongoing struggle against Japanese forces. Its ability to fly long distances, engage in high-altitude combat, and carry heavy weaponry made it the ideal choice for strategic missions, particularly in the island-hopping campaigns. The P-38 was often tasked with long-range escort duties, protecting bombers as they made their way deep into enemy territory and hunting down Japanese aircraft and ships. As the war progressed, the P-38's role expanded beyond the Pacific. In Europe, the aircraft was adapted to counter the Luftwaffe's aggressive air superiority, particularly during the Allied bombing campaigns over Nazi-occupied Europe. Pilots quickly learned to exploit the P-38's exceptional speed and agility at high altitudes, where it outperformed many of the German fighters, including the famed Bf-109 and Fw-190. The P-38's impact in the Pacific theater cannot be overstated. Its long-range capabilities allowed it to cover vast stretches of ocean and target enemy installations on far-off islands. One of the most significant advantages the P-38 had was its ability to operate effectively over the vast distances of the Pacific, a feature that was crucial in the ongoing battle for control of the islands. The aircraft's first major success in the Pacific came during the Guadalcanal campaign. P-38 seconds were used to intercept Japanese bombers and provide air support to U.S. ground forces. In combat, the P-38 demonstrated its ability to outpace and outfight many of the Japanese aircraft it encountered. Its twin engines gave it more power, while the aircraft's firepower was more than a match for Japanese planes, especially in dogfights where the P-38 could maintain sustained fire. A notable instance of the P-38's success in the Pacific was the Battle of the Bismarck Sea in March of 1943. During this battle, U.S. forces, including P-38 seconds, launched an attack on a Japanese convoy. The P-38 seconds proved instrumental in this mission, contributing to the destruction of the Japanese fleet. The aircraft's long-range capability meant it could take off from far-off bases and engage enemy targets over long distances, making it invaluable for both air superiority and interdiction operations. However, it was the P-38's role in providing escort for bombers deep into enemy territory that became one of its most critical functions. The aircraft provided cover for bombers during raids over Japan, allowing the United States to carry out heavy strategic bombing raids that were previously unthinkable due to the lack of fighter escorts. As the war in Europe escalated, the need for a capable fighter to protect Allied bombers during daylight raids became apparent. The P-38 Lightning, with its high-altitude performance and long-range capabilities, was quickly brought into the fold as an ideal escort fighter. In Europe, the P-38 became a cornerstone of the Allied air offensive against the Axis powers. The aircraft's speed and firepower made it well-suited for the role of bomber escort, particularly during the strategic bombing campaigns that aimed to weaken Germany's industrial capacity. The U.S. Army Air Forces, USAAF, deployed the P-38 to provide air support for the large formations of B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator bombers that flew deep into German-held territory. The P-38 proved to be a formidable opponent to the Luftwaffe. German fighters, including the Bf-109 and Fw-190, initially underestimated the P-38's ability to perform in high-altitude combat. However, as the war progressed, the Luftwaffe quickly learned to fear the P-38. The aircraft's speed, heavy armament, and ability to absorb damage made it a difficult target for German pilots. One of the P-38's greatest successes in Europe was its role in the destruction of key German aircraft and air bases. American pilots flying the P-38 Lightning were able to target German planes in the skies and destroy them with precise gunfire. The aircraft's devastating weaponry, its 50 caliber machine guns, could tear through the enemy's aircraft in a matter of seconds. In many instances, the P-38's sustained firepower was the key to neutralizing enemy fighters before they could engage Allied bombers. The P-38's successes in Europe were not limited to combat against enemy fighters. It was also instrumental in carrying out ground attack missions, targeting German tanks, transportation networks, and infrastructure. This versatility made the P-38 Lightning one of the most important aircraft in the Allied arsenal during the war. By the end of the war, the P-38 had proven itself to be a versatile and deadly weapon in both the Pacific and European theaters. Its twin-boom design, once ridiculed, had become a symbol of American ingenuity. The aircraft's ability to serve in a wide variety of roles, from air superiority to long-range bombing escort and ground attack, cemented its place in history as one of the most effective fighter planes of World War II. In total, the U.S. Army Air Forces produced over 10,000 P-38 Lightnings, a testament to its success and widespread use. The aircraft's legacy extends beyond its role in World War II, as its design and innovation influenced the development of future fighter aircraft. Despite its success, the P-38 was eventually phased out of frontline service in favor of newer aircraft, including the P-51 Mustang, which had superior long-range capabilities. However, the P-38 remains a hero in the annals of aviation history. Its performance during the war, especially its ability to outlast and outfight the enemy in both the Pacific and Europe, was a testament to the brilliance of its designers, the courage of its pilots, and the ingenuity of the wartime American aviation industry. As the war drew to a close, the P-38 Lightning had achieved a status that no one had initially expected. The aircraft that had once been considered disposable had become a cornerstone of the Allied victory, changing the course of history and securing its place as one of the most iconic fighters of World War II. As the war approached its final stages, the P-38 Lightning continued to serve with distinction, but the nature of aerial combat was rapidly evolving. The Luftwaffe, which had once been a formidable opponent, was on the brink of collapse, its pilots depleted and its resources exhausted. At the same time, Allied forces began to field more advanced aircraft, including the legendary P-51 Mustang, which had proven to be a more efficient long-range fighter. Despite the emergence of newer aircraft, the P-38 maintained a significant role in the final years of the war. It was still used in both the Pacific and European theaters, particularly for ground attack missions and reconnaissance. The aircraft's ability to carry bombs, rockets, and machine guns made it well suited for these roles, even as its position as a frontline fighter began to wane. In the Pacific, P-38 seconds continued to participate in the campaign to defeat Japan, often escorting bombers and striking at enemy positions across the islands. The aircraft's long-range capability and impressive firepower remained invaluable in the final stages of the war. P-38 pilots flew countless missions over the Pacific, targeting Japanese infrastructure, airfields, and supply lines, further eroding Japan's capacity to fight. In Europe, the P-38's role shifted as well, with the aircraft focusing on tactical ground support missions, particularly as Allied ground forces advanced through German-occupied territory. Although the P-38's range and weaponry made it effective for these tasks, the arrival of more advanced fighters, like the P-51 Mustang, meant that the P-38's days as a primary combat aircraft were numbered. The final stages of the war saw the P-38's continued contributions to the Allied victory, even as its role became increasingly overshadowed by newer, faster fighters. As the Allies closed in on Berlin and Japan's remaining strongholds, the P-38 continued to provide air support and contribute to the dismantling of Axis forces. One of the most significant missions for the P-38 during the war's final months occurred during the air campaigns leading up to the fall of Berlin. P-38 seconds were used to escort bombers on daylight raids over the German capital, a dangerous and highly contested mission due to the heavy presence of Luftwaffe fighters. In these missions, the P-38's ruggedness and high-altitude performance once again proved invaluable, as the aircraft engaged enemy fighters and cleared the way for bombers to strike at strategic targets. In the Pacific, the P-38 participated in the Korean final push against the Japanese Empire, flying long-range sorties that targeted key islands, shipping lanes, and military positions. One of the most significant contributions the P-38 made in the Pacific was its role in the final stages of the Battle of Okinawa, where P-38 seconds provided crucial air support for ground forces and launched attacks on Japanese positions. The aircraft's reliability and ability to operate in difficult conditions continued to make it a key asset in the Pacific theater. The last major missions for the P-38 occurred in the months leading up to Japan's surrender in August 1945. As the war drew to a close, the aircraft had flown thousands of combat missions, contributed to the destruction of enemy fighters and bombers, and provided invaluable support to Allied ground operations. The P-38's final combat missions, which included escorting bombers and striking Japanese targets in the home islands, marked the culmination of the aircraft's storied legacy. After the war ended, the P-38 was gradually phased out of active service as the U.S. military shifted its focus to newer, more advanced aircraft. The P-51 Mustang, with its superior range and agility, became the primary fighter aircraft of the post-war period. However, the P-38's legacy endured. The P-38 Lightning, often dismissed as disposable due to its unorthodox design, had proven itself as one of the most effective and versatile aircraft of World War II. In the Pacific, it had been instrumental in securing air superiority and destroying Japanese infrastructure. In Europe, it had played a vital role in the strategic bombing campaigns and ground support missions that helped bring about the fall of Nazi Germany. The P-38's importance to the war effort was not limited to its combat performance. Its design and technological advancements influenced the development of future fighter aircraft, and its high-altitude performance and long-range capabilities would set the standard for subsequent generations of fighter jets. In the years after the war, the P-38 was used in various military and civilian roles, including reconnaissance and transport. It was also flown by several foreign air forces, where it continued to serve as a reliable and capable aircraft. In the decades that followed, the P-38 became a symbol of American innovation and industrial prowess. Today, the P-38 Lightning is remembered as one of the most iconic and effective aircraft of World War II. Its contributions to the Allied victory are celebrated, and its unique design continues to capture the imagination of aviation enthusiasts around the world. While it was eventually replaced by more advanced aircraft, the P-38's place in history is secure, and it remains a testament to the ingenuity of its designers and the bravery of the pilots who flew it. The P-38's legacy also lives on in the aircraft that followed it. Many of the technological advancements introduced by the P-38, including its twin-engine configuration, long-range capabilities, and heavy armament, influenced the design of future fighter aircraft. The P-38's influence can be seen in the development of the U.S. Air Force's post-war fighter jets and in the evolution of modern air combat tactics. As the aircraft that changed the course of aerial warfare, the P-38 Lightning stands as a testament to the power of innovation, determination, and the pursuit of excellence. The Lightning's story is one of resilience and adaptation, an aircraft that defied the odds, overcame skepticism, and ultimately proved itself as one of the most important weapons in the Allied victory. In the end, the P-38 Lightning was much more than just a fighter plane. It was a symbol of the United States' ability to innovate and adapt in the face of adversity. It helped shape the outcome of World War II and left an indelible mark on aviation history. The P-38 will always be remembered as the disposable plane that, against all expectations, won the air war. As the United States and the world transitioned into the post-war period, the aviation industry was undergoing a rapid transformation. The war had spurred unprecedented advancements in aircraft technology, and with the war's end in 1945, the focus quickly shifted toward the development of jet-powered fighters. The P-38, having played a crucial role in World War II, found itself phased out of frontline service as jet fighters like the F-86 Sabre and the F-80 Shooting Star entered production. However, despite its retirement from combat, the legacy of the P-38 was far from over. The design elements and technological innovations introduced by the P-38 would serve as a foundation for the development of future aircraft, particularly in the realm of multi-role fighters and long-range interceptors. Its legacy of ruggedness, versatility, and long-range capability would influence fighter designs for decades to come. The aircraft's unique twin-boom configuration, though no longer in widespread use, left a lasting impression on military aircraft design. The P-38's ability to perform a variety of roles, from long-range escort fighter to ground attack platform, served as an example of what could be achieved by creating multifunctional aircraft. This philosophy would be carried forward into the design of subsequent military aircraft, especially during the early years of the Cold War. Though retired from active service in the U.S. Air Force by the late 1940s, the P-38 remained in use by several foreign air forces into the early 1950s. Countries such as Bolivia, which had received surplus P-38 seconds, continued to use the aircraft for several years in secondary roles, such as reconnaissance and ground support. This continued use by foreign military forces was a testament to the aircraft's reliability and versatility. While the P-38 was no longer serving in military combat roles, its status as an iconic aircraft with a storied history ensured that it would not be forgotten. In the years after the war, many P-38 seconds were sold as surplus, some ending up in civilian hands. Though the aircraft was primarily designed for military use, the P-38's performance characteristics made it an attractive option for aviation enthusiasts and private collectors. The high cost of maintaining such a complex and powerful aircraft meant that only a select few were able to acquire and operate the P-38 inches the post-war era. However, a number of these privately owned aircraft became stars in air shows, where they were flown by experienced pilots and showcased their legendary capabilities. These air shows allowed aviation enthusiasts to witness the P-38 inches flight and kept the aircraft's legacy alive for new generations of fans. One of the most famous post-war P-38 seconds is the aircraft known as the Glacier Girl. This particular P-38, which was part of a lost group of aircraft, was famously recovered in 1992 from beneath the ice in Greenland. The story of the P-38's recovery and its restoration to flying condition is one of the most remarkable in aviation history. It represents the enduring appeal of the P-38 and the aircraft's lasting significance to both aviation enthusiasts and historians alike. While the P-38 was eventually outclassed by newer designs, its influence on modern military aviation cannot be overstated. The P-38's advanced design principles would pave the way for the multi-role fighters of the post-war era, which would later become the backbone of air forces around the world. The P-38's design, featuring two engines and a twin-boom configuration, was not widely replicated in later aircraft, but the emphasis on long-range capabilities, high-performance engines, and heavy firepower would resonate in future fighter designs. Aircraft like the F-4 Phantom II and the F-15 Eagle, which would go on to become iconic fighters in their own right, borrowed principles of versatility, endurance, and firepower from the P-38. One key aspect of the P-38's legacy was its ability to perform a wide range of missions: long-range escort, fighter bomber, reconnaissance, and ground attack. This multi-role capability became a defining characteristic of modern combat aircraft. The U.S. Air Force's focus on versatility and adaptability in fighter design would find its roots in the P-38's success during World War II. In addition to its role in combat, the P-38's achievements would serve as an inspiration for engineers and aircraft designers. The aircraft demonstrated that an unconventional design could deliver extraordinary results, and it proved that technical innovation and engineering excellence were critical to achieving superiority in air combat. The P-38 Lightning's legacy has been immortalized not only in the history books but also in popular culture. Its distinctive twin-boom design and formidable combat record have made it one of the most recognizable aircraft of World War II. Films, documentaries, and books about the war often feature the P-38 as a symbol of American air superiority and technological innovation. The P-38's role in the war's greatest victories, from the destruction of Japanese fighter forces to the aerial campaigns over Europe, continues to inspire generations of aviation enthusiasts and military historians. The aircraft's ability to overcome early skepticism about its design and performance stands as a testament to the power of innovation and persistence in the face of adversity. For veterans who flew the P-38, it remains a source of pride and a symbol of their service. Many former P-38 pilots, who were once part of the small but dedicated group that flew the aircraft in combat, continue to gather at reunions to celebrate the aircraft's remarkable achievements. Their stories are not just about the plane itself, but also about the camaraderie, bravery, and resolve that defined their experiences during the war. The P-38 Lightning was a true technological marvel of its time, an aircraft that defied expectations and changed the course of World War II. From its early days as a controversial design to its critical role in the defeat of Japan and Nazi Germany, the P-38 proved that even in times of war, innovation and determination can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Though it may have been retired from service, the P-38's legacy endures in both military aviation and popular culture. Its contributions to the Allied victory and its influence on future generations of aircraft design ensure that the P-38 Lightning will never be forgotten. The story of the P-38 is one of triumph against the odds, a symbol of American ingenuity, strength, and the spirit of victory in the skies. While the P-38 was certainly a formidable asset in the European theatre, it was in the Pacific theatre where its long-range capabilities truly came to the fore. With vast expanses of ocean separating islands, the Pacific presented unique challenges for air combat, and the P-38's ability to cover long distances and provide both air superiority and ground attack support made it an invaluable asset. One of the most iconic missions that showcased the P-38's abilities was the famed Operation Vengeance in 1943, a mission that would go down in history as a decisive moment in the Pacific War. The mission's objective was clear: to eliminate Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor. Despite being located on the heavily guarded Solomon Islands, Yamamoto's flight path was intercepted, and two P-38 Lightnings, flown by Major John W. Mitchell and Captain Thomas G. Lanphier Jr., successfully shot down his plane, marking the first confirmed kill of a Japanese admiral in history. The success of Operation Vengeance demonstrated the effectiveness of the P-38's long-range capabilities and precision. With a range of over 1,100 miles, the P-38 could effectively execute complex missions deep into enemy territory without needing to refuel. This was a critical advantage in the Pacific, where most missions required aircraft to fly over long stretches of water with minimal support infrastructure. The P-38's dual role as a fighter and bomber also made it versatile in other major Pacific engagements. In the battle for the Gilbert and Marshall Islands, the P-38 played a crucial role in neutralizing enemy airfields and disrupting Japanese supply lines. Its speed and firepower were critical in intercepting enemy bombers, while its bombing capabilities allowed it to support ground operations by hitting enemy installations. In Europe, the P-38 was used primarily as a long-range escort fighter, protecting American bombers deep within enemy territory. Its most notable contribution came during the strategic bombing campaigns over Germany, where its ability to accompany heavy bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-24 Liberator to their targets and back proved essential. The P-38's unique design gave it a significant edge in high-altitude combat. Its twin engines allowed it to fly at altitudes where German fighters, such as the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and Focke-Wulf 190, had to struggle to maintain power. Furthermore, the P-38's turbocharged engines allowed it to retain its speed and performance at these high altitudes, which proved crucial when engaging the Luftwaffe in the skies over Europe. The aircraft's versatility was evident during the D-Day invasion of June 1944. As part of the aerial assault, P-38 seconds were tasked with not only escorting bombers and strafing enemy positions, but also providing close air support for ground troops. Their ability to swiftly transition between combat roles made them one of the most valuable assets during the early days of the invasion. While the P-38's primary role in the European theatre was in the skies over Western Europe, its introduction to the Mediterranean and North African campaigns was equally important. The North African campaign presented unique challenges due to the vast desert landscapes and the need for long-range support against the well-equipped German Afrika Korps. The P-38, with its long-range capabilities, was a game-changer in this environment. Flying out of bases in Tunisia and Italy, P-38 pilots engaged German and Italian aircraft in both dogfights and bombing missions. The aircraft's ruggedness in the harsh desert environment, where sandstorms and high temperatures often wreaked havoc on other planes, proved critical. Additionally, its ability to target supply convoys and intercept bombers at high altitudes played a crucial role in the success of the Allied forces as they advanced through North Africa. P-38 seconds were instrumental in the Italian campaign, where the aircraft's long range allowed Allied forces to keep German forces on the defensive. They provided cover for bombing raids over enemy infrastructure and conducted attacks against Axis shipping in the Mediterranean. The twin-boom fighter also became a symbol of hope for Allied ground forces, as it helped secure air superiority and protect supply lines. As the war concluded, the P-38 Lightning had firmly established itself as one of the most versatile and successful aircraft of World War II. Its contributions spanned every major theatre of the war, and its remarkable design had shown that with innovation, anything was possible, even overcoming initial doubts about its unconventional twin-boom design. The P-38's service in the Pacific, Europe, and North Africa demonstrated not only its power and flexibility, but also the ingenuity of the engineers who designed it. It could soar over the Pacific Ocean, chase down German bombers over France, and support ground troops in the deserts of North Africa, all while maintaining an unmatched combination of speed, firepower, and endurance. Even as newer, faster aircraft, like the Presidi P-51 Mustang, replaced the P-38 inches the latter years of the war, the Lightning remained an iconic symbol of American air superiority and engineering prowess. To this day, the P-38 is remembered as one of the most successful and influential aircraft of World War II, a testament to the power of innovation and the enduring legacy of the men and women who built and flew it. Its story, from its development to its final combat missions, remains a shining example of how the right combination of technology, skill, and determination can turn the tide of history. As the war in Europe wound down in 1945, the P-38 Lightning began to see less action. Newer fighters like the P-51 Mustang had taken over many of the roles that the P-38 had once filled, but the twin-boom fighter still saw combat in the final stages of the war. By this time, the Lightning had become a symbol of endurance, innovation, and versatility. In the final stages of the war in the Pacific, the P-38 continued to play a key role, particularly in the Battle of Okinawa and other island-hopping operations. Despite its age by this point, the P-38 still had a valuable part to play in securing air superiority and supporting ground operations. Its long range allowed it to cover vast stretches of the Pacific, providing a much-needed advantage for Allied forces operating in remote locations. The P-38 was especially effective in hunting down Japanese bombers and providing air cover for critical supply lines, ensuring that the Allied forces could maintain their momentum towards Japan. Even as newer, more advanced aircraft began to dominate, the P-38 remained in use until the end of the war. Its rugged design and adaptability made it a favorite among pilots, especially in situations where the flexibility to engage in both long-range missions and ground support was critical. After the war, the P-38 was quickly retired from active service as the military transitioned to newer aircraft with more advanced capabilities. The P-51 Mustang and P-47 Thunderbolt, among others, became the new standard in American air power. However, the P-38 Lightning had earned a permanent place in aviation history. Its service record, spanning the Pacific, Europe, and North Africa, showcased its role in the success of the Allied forces during World War II. The P-38's unique design, its twin-engine configuration, twin booms, and long-range capabilities left an indelible mark on the world of aviation. While the aircraft would never see active service in the Cold War, its innovations in aerodynamics, engineering, and combat strategy laid the groundwork for future fighter designs. Despite its retirement from frontline combat, the P-38 continued to hold significance in the hearts of those who flew it. Many pilots who had served with the P-38 during the war went on to become leaders in the post-war aviation industry, and the aircraft's design influenced the development of future aircraft. The P-38's ability to absorb significant damage and continue flying was an important factor that later influenced the durability standards for aircraft in the years to come. As time passed, the P-38 became an enduring symbol of innovation, resourcefulness, and the courage of the pilots who flew it. Its history, marked by key missions like Operation Vengeance, where the Lightning played a pivotal role in the death of Admiral Yamamoto, and its success in numerous battles, demonstrated the immense contribution it made to the Allied victory. The aircraft's legacy is not just tied to its technical accomplishments, but also to the stories of the men who flew it. The bravery of Lieutenant Thomas G. Lanphier Jr. and Maj. John W. Mitchell in shooting down Yamamoto's plane, and the countless other pilots who engaged in daring combat missions, has cemented the P-38's place in history. Though only a small number of P-38 seconds remain on display in museums around the world, each one stands as a testament to the legacy of the men and women who built, flew, and fought with the aircraft. As the last of the P-38 seconds were decommissioned, its story continued to inspire new generations of aviation enthusiasts, engineers, and military historians who saw in its design a reflection of the resourcefulness and resolve that defined the era. Today, the P-38 Lightning lives on not just in museums and collections, but in the stories of those who witnessed its combat success. Its impact on World War II air combat cannot be overstated. The aircraft's history is a reminder that innovation, perseverance, and adaptability can change the course of history, and that sometimes even the most unlikely designs can become the key to victory.